Bro, this is kind of a wild title here, but let's go ahead and attempt to read this here. Singapore Prime Minister Wong roars at Trump tariffs, shockwaves in the United States of America and Europe. Not scared of. Bro, was this like a literal translation or something? Guys, this is a weird title. But either way, listen, this is a suggestion via a channel member. Let's go and jump into this video immediately. Let's see where this takes us.
Even those who were not directly affected by the tariffs are worried about weakening demand from their consumers. Some have put new projects on hold while they assess the full implications of the tariffs.
Okay. A lot of people have.
These are reactions from companies based here, but I'm sure the same conversations are happening in boardrooms elsewhere. Over the recent days, we have seen sharp negative reactions in global stock markets. It is too early to tell if all this will spill over into the real economy, but the downside risks are clearly rising. What's troubling is not just the tariffs themselves, which are already damaging, but the fact that this new wave of protectionism is unpredictable and unstable. Protectionism is already bad. Unstable protectionism is even worse.
Okay, so here's the thing, guys. So we know Singapore, in fact, beautiful country. I love Singapore. Just keep this in mind here. I probably am going to retire there. Just a heads up, in like 20 years. But either way, the thing about Singapore is that Singapore is a tiny country. So when it comes to hearing him say specifically that this wave of protectionism is kind of an issue, it's intriguing, right? Because of course, a small country would say something like that because again they exist basically to import from larger countries. The reality, right? Let's just be completely honest here. Let's lay everything on the table here, right? They exist to import, so of course they're not going to be happy if one of the larger countries with the literal largest consumer base is saying, yeah, we're done, right? And definitely, guys, just a heads up here also, I am not for putting a tariff on Singapore. That almost doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, I get it. It's happening just in case, it's close enough to China, let's say, that they could, in fact, use Singapore as some type of proxy to send products through if the corporation in China itself is large enough to do so, guys, right? That's the thing. But either way,
Businesses
I guess that's
don't
why.
know what to expect. Many are holding back, fearful that changing rules will leave them with stranded assets. And all this creates an environment of deep uncertainty, one that could tip both the US and global economy into recession. The consequences extend far beyond economics. More and more countries are turning away from win-win cooperation and deeper integration. Instead, we see a rising me-first, win-lose mindset, where it's every country for itself. Some are even prepared to use aggressive or coercive means to get what they want at the expense of others. Meanwhile, global institutions are getting weaker and long-standing norms of cooperation are breaking down. One major concern is the US-China relationship. America views China as a strategic competitor and threat.
It is. They're not our friends. We're not allies. They are, in fact, an adversary.
Which must be dealt with now while America still has the advantage. China says it is ready for a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war.
Okay.
The US has now threatened an extra 50% tariff on China, and China says it will fight to the end.
Okay.
There are fewer channels for dialogue, which can serve as guardrails to manage the relationship. So if the disputes escalate and destabilize US-China relationship, the consequences for the world would be disastrous. We must be mentally prepared. The predictable and rules-based order we once knew is fading. The new era will be more volatile with more frequent and unpredictable shocks. We must be ready to stand firm and protect our interests, no matter how the external winds may blow. What does all this mean for Singapore? In the near term, we expect weaker global growth, which means external demand for our goods and services will fall. The outward-oriented sectors of our economy will suffer the brunt of the impact. They include manufacturing,
This is true.
especially segments like electronics and semiconductors, biomedical science, which have higher export exposure to the US, wholesale trade and transport will be impacted. The global uncertainty and dampened sentiments will also impact some services industries, including finance and insurance. Singapore may or may not go into recession this year, but I have no doubt that our growth will be significantly impacted. We had originally projected GDP growth of 1 to 3% for 2025. MTI is reassessing the growth forecast and will likely revise it downwards. Slower growth will mean fewer job opportunities and smaller wage increases for workers. And if more companies face difficulties or relocate their operations back to the US, there will be higher retrenchments and job losses.
And guys, I get it. Coming from Singapore specifically, I can imagine how this is going to affect you specifically, right? But no one seems to look at it from our perspective of things. Right? You guys are going to lose jobs because everyone outside of America undercut American workers. The facts here, they undercut the price. They said, "Hey, listen, wait. So why? So you're telling me that you're paying that guy on the assembly line $60,000 to make that product? 60,000? Don't worry, bro. How about this? Just go ahead and give me $3,000 a year. I'll do it." That's how crazy the undercut was, specifically in China. All right. So I hear you, bro, but like, what about us? Okay, you're talking about protectionism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what are we supposed to do with this? This is a lose-lose scenario, right? If we have the largest consumer base, and to be honest, one of the larger pools of money, what are we supposed to do? Continue importing everything from foreign countries? Where does that leave the United States of America in 100 years? Where does it leave it? It seems like we're just sending everyone else money instead of working on us. We need to work on us right now. Let's just take a break, bro. Right? And listen, bro, I like you a lot, right? Prime Minister Wong. I think that he speaks, beautifully. He represents his country very well, right? Very. I have no ill will. I don't harbor any ill will towards any country that's caught up in this war, this kerfuffle, let's say. Not at all. But guys, when can we look inward and say, you know what? Hey, listen, we have a lot of problems at home. We need to fix it. We cannot keep funding the planet. All right? You guys got it. Let us do us for a little bit. All right? The manufacturing jobs, in fact, do need to come back to the United States of America so Americans themselves can actually, start a family. Right? Like our birth rate is about to start declining. Okay, people are still living with their parents by the time they turn 40. There's a recent poll came out talking about Gen Zers and millennials are still getting like 50% of their monthly income from their parents, guys. Okay, there's an issue here, but I hear you, bro. I hear you, but what about us, bro? We can't just keep giving you our money like that. We need to work on us.
For now, the measures announced in this year's budget will provide support for any short-term strain. We have a comprehensive package of measures for households and individuals. They will receive CDC vouchers, SG60 vouchers, and USAVE rebates to help with their cost of living. And there are targeted measures like increased ComCare assistance for the more vulnerable groups. We are also supporting workers through investments in Skills Future. And those who find themselves involuntarily unemployed will receive help to get back on their feet through the Skills Future Job Seeker support, which will start later this month.
I love that for them. Seriously.
We've also rolled out measures in the budget to help businesses. There are short-term support measures through corporate income tax rebates, as well as schemes to boost their productivity and competitiveness and to pivot to new markets. Our economic agencies are also engaging the firms impacted by the tariffs to better understand their responses and see how we can support them and assist them with any specific issues they face. Nevertheless, the situation is fluid and can change quickly.
Definitely.
We will therefore set up a task force chaired by DPM Gan Kim Yong to help businesses and workers address the immediate uncertainties, strengthen their resilience, and better adapt to the new economic environment. In addition to our economic agencies, the task force will include the Singapore Business Federation, the Singapore National Employers Federation, and the NTUC. We will continue to monitor developments closely. The government stands ready to do more if and when necessary. We have the resources to do so because of the financial discipline and prudence we've exercised over the decades. In this new environment, Singapore must redouble our efforts to remain a key node in global flows and a trusted business hub. We will forge closer links with like-minded partners who share our commitment to open and free trade.
Okay.
The US may have decided to turn protectionist, but the rest of the world does not have to follow the same path.
Because they can't. Like, they can't. Like, the rest of the world, specifically referring to smaller countries, they may have larger populations at times, but they're still smaller countries. Less consumer, there's less consumer base, less money just in general, right? Floating around, less disposable income to go ahead and purchase the nonsense that we generally purchase, right? So they can't do that. I hear what he's saying. Listen, bro, I'm telling you, I hear what he's saying, but again, he's speaking from the perspective of someone coming from a tiny country in comparison, right? So the rest of the world can't do what we are doing, the reality at least.
We
In my
will
head.
identify other partners to join us and work around this to ensure resilience and maintain critical parts of the multilateral system while laying the foundations for a possible new and different global system that can be achievable later. And this is why I've made the effort to engage and visit my counterparts in different countries. I touched base with the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer yesterday and have a few more conversations lined up in the coming weeks. They are all keen to do more with Singapore and to expand our economic cooperation, including in new areas like the digital and green economies. In particular, we will strengthen our collaboration and integration within ASEAN. Last Friday, I spoke with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. Malaysia is also the ASEAN chair this year. We agreed to accelerate ASEAN's integration efforts to make our region more attractive and competitive.
Okay.
A special ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting will be convened later this week.
Okay, guys, it seems like we're kind of moving off the topic here. Guys, listen, I 100% think that the world is going to be fine. Right? I do. I think that we're all going to be fine. We're all going to make it out of this, better than we were before. Because if people were to actually sit and think about the benefit, right? Singapore specifically needs to start building their own stuff, right? Like, stop specifically yearning for, let's say, the things that are outside. If you want to be outside of your country, go to the country, right? I mean, I travel a lot, so I generally don't expect to get certain things in certain places, right? Like, so for the longest I've been outside of the United States of America was for maybe 11 years. That was when I was full-time in Spain. Now I'm just half the year type of thing. But when I was there, like, if I wanted something, I knew that thing. Like, first of all, I couldn't get it. Number one, right? Generally, most of the stuff I wanted was like fat people stuff, right? Like, American candies and chips and like root beer and things, right? So, like, generally, I just couldn't get it unless I left, right? So you have to kind of get to the point where you're just like, listen, this is what our country is. We love our country. This is what our country can offer. This is what I will want and need and yearn for. The problem is that Singapore is absolutely minuscule in comparison, right? So, guys, you're going to keep importing unless you stop importing. Just a thought, right? But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'll catch you guys later.